Okay, so shading in Desmos is a little bit of a hard thing to figure out, even after you know how to do it. So bear with me as I go through this video because who knows what kind of errors I'm going to make, and I don't want to have to start over 30 times. So you can see on the graph, I've already made a little heart, very simple. Hopefully your project is way more complex than this. You can see in this folder that I have called heart, I have all my lines, and then this folder called shading is where I'm going to put all of my lines that show how I want to shade in the heart. So first I'll talk to you about the shading lines. So you'll see when I open both folders, let me move this, that the lines are almost, well, right now they are identical. This blue line up here, y equals negative 3/4x plus 3. Down here, blue, y equals negative 3/4x plus 3. They're exact same thing, okay? The way I did that is I just cloned each line. So if you look down here at my shading, I only have 5 lines. I haven't done the last green one. So the way you do that is you hit this little edit button, and then you just pick the line you want to clone. So I want to clone this green one. I'm going to click duplicate. It's going to pop up right underneath it. So I'm going to then move it down into this other folder underneath the rest of them. Okay. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to make my shading lines all be dotted. Honestly, that is more for me to recognize where they are than anything else. You don't have to do that unless your teacher wants you to, but it just helps me to kind of see what I'm working with. So now when you look at my picture, each line has both I'll do this one, has a solid version underneath and then the dotted version on top. So I know that I've made every line a duplicate. And you don't have to do this. In the future, you'll realize you don't have to do this for every single line, but it's just a good way to show you what we're working with here. So I'm going to go ahead and close my normal lines up there. With my dotted lines, the only thing I have to do to make them shaded is to make them into inequalities. So let's just start with this blue line, the very first line I have here. I'm going to close it just so you can see it. It's the one up there. If I want to shade underneath it so I can color in my heart, all I have to do is think about, well, do I want y to be less than and shade below the line, or greater than and shade above? So less than means I'm going to remove my equal sign and instead use a less than symbol. And you'll see I have shaded underneath it. But right off the bat, you see some issues. It goes too far, right? It's going to go on forever and ever and ever, so we want to fix that. And it's only limited from here to here with my domain, okay? I'm going to talk about domain here in a second. Let's first talk about how do I stop it from going below this orange line, right? Well, we have said that y needs to be less than negative 3/4x plus 3, but we haven't said anything about what y needs to be greater than. Well, we know that y needs to be greater than this orange line. So down here, I can see that this is my equation for my orange line. Instead of me doing just y is greater than down here and having this issue, I'm actually going to combine both my blue and my orange into one inequality, a compound inequality. So I'm going to take that back. Okay, I've got the equals. I'm going to use the same little piece, negative x minus 2, and move it up here to my blue line to make it compound. So let me go ahead and retype negative x minus 2 and put greater than. Now you can see that this shading has been limited on the top by the negative 3/4x plus 3, y is less than that. And then on the bottom by my orange line over here, negative x minus 2. Really, I don't really need this orange line, as far as greater than is concerned, until I get to this bit right here. Now, the domain, you're going to be thinking, okay, well, it's cut off on the left and right. If I move it to the right, okay, so let's say I want to keep this shading going all the way to positive 2. You'll see that it's just going to go past the point I want it to, and then I'd have to cut it off here, cut it off here. Really, what's best is to actually do it in segments and leave the domains alone, okay? And again, you'll see as you go along and you play with this more and more that you can find more shortcuts, more methods, more ways to do this than what I'm showing you. I'm trying to just give you the basics that will work every time, even if it takes longer. And if you have the time in your project to keep going and learn some new things, please go for it. Show us what you learn. Explore to your heart's content. Okay, so I've got this piece. I'm going to go then look for the next piece that I want to shade underneath, which would be this green line right here. Okay, and that is at this one. Is it this one? X plus 2. I think it's this one. No, it's this one. X plus 10, because I could tell from my y-intercept. Okay, here's my line. Again, bear with me. So I want to be less than this line, so I'm going to change this to less than, but again, it's going too far, so I want to stop it with this same orange line from before. So the exact same equation I used a second ago, y equals negative x minus 2, I'm going to combine once again with this green line. Okay, so I'm going to type negative x minus 2 and make it the lower bound of this shading. So I have my upper bound with that green line, lower bound by the orange line. Okay, at this point I really don't need the orange anymore, right? If I was to actually shade above this orange line, I'd have to go through this process all again, and it's already shaded, so I don't need it. So I'm actually going to remove the orange line altogether. okay? While I'm thinking about it, I can change this coloring just like I can with the lines by doing edit, changing this, let's make it a red heart, going down here, changing this to a red, and now I'm shading everything in red. Okay, but you can do it at the end. It's probably safer to stick with the math first. So let's keep going. I want to shade underneath this red line. I would always start with the upper bound just to be consistent. So I want to shade underneath the red. Here we go. I want to shade underneath, so y is less than, but I need to stop that shading with this green line as my lower bound. So here's the equation for the green line, x plus 2. I'm going to stick that behind my y, and I've stopped it. Okay, I want to shade underneath the purple. So again, underneath requires it to be less than, but I want to stop it by that green boundary again. So x plus 2 is less than, and I've stopped it. Don't need the green anymore. Change this to red. Oops, do edit first. And now I have a cute red heart. Awesome blossom. If you, again, want to change all the colors from before so you don't see this green peeking through, you can go for it. But those are the basics of shading. Again, it's kind of one of those things that you have to kind of use trial and error to figure out. Hopefully this gives you enough to get started. If you have questions, need some help figuring out a problem, feel free to go ask your teacher.